Hello and welcome to my podcast, Learn Reiki and Connect, and it's with me, Tracy Matthews. So I hope you're well and I hope you're now ready and settled just to join me in this little bit of time in this space where we're helping each other to connect, and that's to the light that's within, and awakening and remembering from deep within inside what we already know. But here's the thing, how do we get access to that information? You know, if the information's all within us, then how do we get to that part? And that's really what I do in my work. That's why I'm here. And to find a way, and we're going to talk about that, because there are very particular ways that I help, what I've done in my own personal life, but also help others to find their truth. But it's not just accessing that information, it's also about understanding the 3D physical stuff. Because when we're on a spiritual journey, you know, our lives, our experiences sometimes don't match what we want. So we're looking through the lens that enables us to see our truth and understand and even translate what it all means. Because there's a part of you and I that know why we're here, you know, and you're already unconsciously or even consciously, you know, knowing that part and accessing it. And that's why I always run through these lists of higher self, intuition, inner voice, you know, the bigger meal, the soul, because whatever we know that part, that's the bit that really is helping us to navigate. Is helping us to remember deep within that essence of who we really are. And once we listen to that part of us, that's where we get real genuine joy and happiness. So going back to then, well, really, how do we access that? Because that's huge. So I work with people, and there's a couple of areas that I help to facilitate this. And it's the tuning in, connecting from within, and then accessing from that part. So there's a couple of areas which, if you go onto the website at learnreikiandconnect.co.uk, you will already have noticed there is the Reiki pathway. And I call that's just my term, Reiki pathway. But what does this really mean? Well, the best way I can put it to you, it's a powerful, intention-led method or technique that has been left behind in our consciousness. And boy, is it powerful. Because what this intention-led way of connecting in helps us to meditate. And Usui not only just said it would meditate, because he used to be a Tibetan monk, he knew how to meditate, but he knew that we could heal. We could heal ourselves on another level in our physical lives, more than we could ever imagine. So there is a deep level of healing that comes when we connect in to the source energy. And that source energy is already within us. And how we tune in is going to be the how we're already that we sense the world. And if you haven't already looked at that, look at the online Reiki level 1 and level 2. I'd really encourage you to look at it. Because I've put that together the same way as I work with over the years now with people on one-to-one, because I don't do group classes. I tend to work one-to-one with people. And I've done that on a one-to-one, but an online platform for people to access that part of themselves. I take you through the same course content, and I deliver it exactly in the way that I would help someone to understand and how to tune in to themselves on a deeper level. So if you haven't looked at that already, then I'd encourage you, take a look, you know, and I've even done a free introduction and also the first module free, just so that you can get a little taste of just what it is, just you and I, and as we're going through that. So take a look at that and see what you think, because that's a very powerful way that we can start gaining and accessing information that once we get on our pathway, on our journey rather, that will help us on our path and purpose. Now you'll notice that there is also what's called the Akashic Records. Now for me, the Akashic Records came sort of into my consciousness, I would say around 2012, 2013. Boy, I was like a dog with a bone. Now what I mean by that is that I realised I was here before and I needed some answers. So I started with what most of you might know is what's called, the lady that's written so much and quite a pioneer on this is Linda Howe. So I gobbled up her book, looked at her pathway access, and I used the intention to connect with Source to start accessing that part of me. And wow, that just didn't disappoint. I mean, I did do the very thing that I always recommend others don't do, is go and look at other people's experience, because what that did for me is that I couldn't realise, or I didn't understand if I was in or not in the Akashic Records, because I went and read other people's experience and made it my own. But once I worked through that, once I started to realise what my connection and my accessing to the Akashic Records, once I was in, it was incredible. And that just didn't go away. That hunger and thirst for that really continued to 2017, where I done soul realignment, where that opened up a whole protocol or procedure and way of accessing the records using the pendulum. And you could also muscle test through it as well. Those that might be aware with kinesiology, muscle testing, but just that sort of procedure sort of worked very well using dowsing, using the pendulum. And that opened up dowsing in another way, and which was incredible in finding out information about the soul. That lifts the veil. Once we get to sort of wanting to know who we are at soul level, that sort of seeps in. That's like remembering who you are, but right here in the physical. Very powerful. And that's sort of not quite understood what the Akashic Record is. I have actually done some articles on that, and I will talk about that in a separate podcast. But for now, that sort of accessing or having an Akashic Record reading is a very powerful way to start accessing information and starting to hear. It starts to unlock the door as to who we are, our gifts, what's making us stuck on the path, some of the things that we keep doing, not only we've done in a previous life, that we're still doing now. So the Akashic Records is really a powerful tool. So closely following that is dowsing and the pendulum. Now, if you've gone onto the website, you'll also notice that I've actually put together a free guidebook. And I've collated that over the years because there's a lot of people that have sort of said, well, if you can gain a lot of information from dowsing, or another term of same thing, using the pendulum, how do you go about that? So you might want to go down and onto the website at learnreikingconnect.co.uk and get your own guidebook, where I explain it all in there, how to access, how to get the best information from your higher self. And I've even put together 3 areas, and I go through this with my one-to-one Reiki people that have done the courses with me. We do this on Skype together, because this is how important this technique is. where we can start to understand and really sort of like the flow of our chakras, the flow of energy. What does it all mean? How do we map that back? Then we can look at when we get stuck. Well, how do you know that you're stuck? Are you even stuck? Where are you stuck and at what life area? That is something that I use, if not weekly, monthly, because we all get stuck on the path. And the difference between that is the fact that we stay in that stuckness. Maybe you might be in that now, where you just don't quite know how to move forward. Whereas this is it is a tool, and it's a way in which we can just tap into that part of us, locate where we're stuck, and your higher self will guide you. So that's really incredible. So if you haven't already, jump on there, download your free guidebook. All you will need to get with that one is a pendulum, and then you are well away. So the last area you'll notice on the website is the area that I help people, and a way that you can really start finding out information about yourself and life is through hypnosis, the QHHT, and the past life regression. And that's using the frequency of hypnosis to find out information. So this is the one that we're going to talk about now. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere, while we now go and really start to find out a little bit more information about this. So there's a lot of information about hypnosis out there. A lot of the stuff out there is untrue. And some of it's a little bit sort of, because we don't understand it, it just makes us think that it feels a little bit scary, that somebody has power over you. And of course, when you look at sort of hypnosis done in groups or on stage, then yeah, that's enough to put anybody off if you want to look at it and from that perspective. In terms of how hypnosis, I guess there's lots of ways that it can be used, but we are not talking about that context. In fact, one of the biggest questions that people ask me is, are we asleep during hypnosis? You know, will I go to a void or a deep place which I will not be able to come back? And, you know, will I just be sort of lost in it forever? You know, you can imagine it does sort of makes you think, well, what is it all about? What is the truth? You know, and before I did hypnosis, I learnt hypnosis, then I also learnt past life regression. And then I learnt what's called QHHT, past life regression, and I'll explain a little bit more in a minute about that. You know, I kind of perhaps myself felt a little bit not necessarily scared or worried about hypnosis, but I didn't quite understand what it was. So one of the things to sort of help you understand, and what I've learned about what's called frequencies and brainwave states, is really the well-known four of them, which is the beta, alpha, theta, delta. And I think this will help you, because to just sort of answer your questions, can you go to a void in a dark place? Well, no. And is there somebody power over you that will help, you know, put you somewhere that you don't want to be? Well, the answer of that is no. We only allow people to have power over us if we want that. And that's not the context of hypnosis that we're talking about. So if you go to clinical hypnotherapists, or if you go to hypnotherapy, that's more sort of like what my work is on a spiritual level. That is not even the intention. In fact, I reverse this right back onto the person, that they have the power over themselves. In fact, all I'm doing is facilitating them to get into that powerful state where they can access that information. And, asking them to do anything that they're uncomfortable and don't want to do, that's really important that we discuss that. What does that look like to the person? But this is where we will look at that a little bit more in detail, a little bit in a minute. But for now, I kind of want to run through those 4 states because this is going to help you. You are already going in and out of hypnosis every day by yourself. Now, I know you might think no, or you might already realise that this about yourself is that these states is nothing new. The only difference is that with hypnosis and when you're going to somebody is that you're basically asking assistance from someone else, and it's normally to help you overcome something or to help you find out some sort of information. So what do I mean we're going in and out of these states already? And you do it perfectly all the time. And so do I. And sometimes there are disruptions, but I'll explain what I mean. So in our everyday working life, every time we wake up, we are in our work life, our normal life, which is beta. This is a brain frequency where we are just in when we're doing our stuff and our work. Now, we can next go into what's called alpha. Now, you can go into this when you go into a bit of a daydream. Or you've been driving, you do that route so often, you've gone into a little bit of a dream state, but you're alert enough to drive home carefully, but you don't remember how you got from A to B. Now that is a level of hypnosis. It's just that we're not even aware of it. In fact, alpha is also a way that we put ourselves into that frequency when we do any form of meditation, connecting to source energy, like I was talking about, with Reiki, with Yusui, or any form of breathing technique, like with yoga, or just any form of relaxation. When we close our eyes, we signal to our brain that we are going into alpha. Now you might be beginning to realise, I didn't quite realise that, that's what I'm doing, but that's what it is. We go into alpha very comfortably. Some struggle a little bit, some struggle with the mind and not able to switch it off. In fact, there are those that don't even sit in beta, they sit in stress. That's fight and flight. And I see a lot of people that are in that. And getting even into beta is something that they're not conscious of. A lot of this stuff, unless we sort of slow it down, unless we, like now, talk about it, we don't even become aware that we're in these frequencies. But guarantee you will be sitting at one of them as either beta or it's stress, or you have learnt to put yourself into alpha. Now, closely following alpha is theta. The best way to describe theta is just before you go to sleep at night. So just before you slide into sleep, you'll get nice and comfortable. Then all of a sudden, it's like you don't become aware of the sounds in the room. You're nice and relaxed. This is where you start then becoming connected to the part of the mind where the pictures are. The images. Just be thinking and there's just thoughts coming up, images. And then before you realise it, you don't even become aware that you have slid or gone into delta. Delta is unconscious, that's dreams. And then we go into the astral. So let's just sort of break that down a little bit. Theta Theta is when you go to sleep at night. And this is quite a big thing because some people have not even aware that they could get into that state. Now what that means is that you're not quite asleep, but you're not fully awake. So you're in a very relaxed state. Maybe you haven't been conscious about that state or that frequency before. And this is when I was talking about where this state can be interrupted. Now I see this a lot. I actually access and find this kind of information out through the Akashic records. The Akashic records will let me know and say to a person whether that state is interrupted. I.e. what that looks like is that they're not going to sleep, they're not going in and transitioning into Delta very well. So they've got a level of insomnia. They're sitting there or laying there and doing whatever and they're awake. So unless, of course, that's happening and then that's interrupted states, most on a whole will slide in to Delta. So we've got these states of being that we are going in frequently from the minute we wake up to when we go to sleep. And that's very interesting until we start looking at it from that perspective. And that's a perspective that I look at an energetic level and also on a hypnosis level. So these hypnotic levels are between alpha and theta. So in terms of anybody allowing another person to go off and going into a level of deep that they cannot come out of, well, that simply isn't true. Because you already go into alpha, theta, delta, beta, alpha, theta, delta every single day. And it's normally at this point, and this is where I talk to my clients, that, we realise that, okay, well, this is what we're doing already. And perhaps we hadn't even, put some level of cognizance around it or a level of wording around it. So now we begin to realise that this is something that we're in and out of all the time. And we can put ourselves into. This is where a lot of our spiritual work is done. This is where the hypnosis is done. And there's something else about this alpha and theta state, this frequency, is that's the part where the higher self and the subconscious lay, deep within the mind. It's got all that wisdom and all that knowledge. It's got all the stuff that we're talking about that we already know at some level. It's just that we don't know how to access it. Well, here is one way to access it, and that's through hypnosis. So it can be self-hypnosis, or it could be done by somebody else. Now, this is where I would just like to talk about QHHT. Now, you might have heard that. That's Delores Cannon's own method of hypnosis. And boy, is that powerful. And what the QHHT stands for is Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. Because she found a way in her 50 years of working as in the level of hypnosis, but also dealing with past life regression, she found a way of accessing the higher self. Now, she called it the subconscious, but she knew it wasn't the subconscious where most of us, when we get taught how to learn this kind of work, we work with trying to break habits, to help a person to stop smoking, how to relax, how to get themselves into alpha, and how to maybe break habits and eating. She knew that it was not that part of the mind, that this was something very beautiful that she came across. And she developed a way to not only access that part, but to ask that part questions. And that's where we get the famous QHHT way of really asking ourselves questions, all sorts, on a physical, emotional and mental and on a spiritual aspect. So it's very, really, very, very powerful. And you might be already aware of Delores Cannon, and incidentally, all her books, I can't remember how many of them now, but she wrote her books basically from every case study and every person that she took into hypnosis. And she was able to gain a lot of information, historical information that had been lost or hidden, because she considered herself, the reporter of lost information on our planet. And she really got that stuff out, and it's incredible. And if you haven't already watched her on YouTube or read some of her books, I would highly recommend that you do so. So her style and her method has been left in our consciousness, and a way in which a person can find out so much information about our lives. Because it is about our lives, it's about the experiences that sometimes we get lost. They don't match up, or we don't feel that we're doing what we're supposed to be, or we feel off path, or we don't think that we've done what we should be doing. There's all these kind of things that come along at some level of our journey and in our lives, where there is this level of session and work where we can find this kind of information out. This is where we can start accessing that information. Because like we mentioned already, and a lot of people have said, well, how can I start? Well, once we learn a method, and incidentally, that's what I done, and that's what so many doing on the planet at the moment, of learning the online QHHT, learning how to do it for others and then to do it for yourself, which is just incredible. It's wonderful. We're not left alone on our planet, without a way forward, just like the Usui and the Reiki. That's why that's been left behind, so that we can find, as I call it, find our way home. And this hypnosis, and especially this hypnotic technique and method of QHHT, it's a way that we can find our way home. And there's been many a person that they've needed to find out some deep information about why they're here, about some of their health issues. So what does that look like? What will happen on the session? Well, you will be together for a couple of hours. Now, for me, I normally do around 10 to 2. And the reason being is that, first of all, you will have a consultation to discuss the main reason or the areas of life that requires some level of insight. And personal areas and challenges, and that might include relationships, childhood, or it may include some spiritual clarity and insight. So we're going to spend some time discussing that. And that can't be, a quick 5 minute. And it's important that you as the client and me as the therapist is able to sit and understand what it is and the reasons why you need this session. Now, the next part will be to go over and to prepare for hypnosis. Now, what I mean by that is I'll talk about these frequencies, these states. There is nothing that I can put anybody into. I'm not going to be able to put somebody and put a spell on somebody. That's just not even my intention, and that's not even how this works. So I will prepare a person so that they are able to sort of know what to expect during the session. Through the hypnosis, understanding the process, not only will they feel safe, but they'll feel happy. And that when we come to accessing the part of the higher self, that they understand what that is. What is that higher self? Now, I talk about that all the time. I try to highlight that to people. It's going to be that part what you already are tuned into. And it's just allowing that frequency of information to come through. And yeah, we talk about the conscious mind. Some people are very analytical, and sometimes together we have to put conscious mind just quietly there. Conscious mind sometimes likes just to get involved or stop, whatever's coming. But once that's dealt with, and I can spot that, and whoever you've gone with or go with in terms of your QHHT will spot that. That will stop conscious mind just coming in and interfering. And there is a difference because that information will flow. And then you will go through all the questions. Now what that is, which is quite rare because I've also done the past life regression where you don't have this outlet of asking that part any form of questions. So what that can look like is that you have a past life regression, say for example you were in Egypt, but then why? Why did it even show you that? What does that have to do with now? What are you learning from that life for this life? Why were you even shown that? So that's really important. And that's why there will be additional questions that you will want to find out. And this is the really incredible and beautiful thing about QHHT. Your higher self will already know what to show you. Now, sometimes it's a past life, sometimes it's viewing present, sometimes it's just being themselves, but seeing it from a different perspective, different lens or a different angle. And then that part of you will show you why it is that you're struggling, why it is that you're experiencing perhaps not what you want from this, so that you can gain a level of orientation around this and the people that are in your lives. I've seen many that have just shown them their children or their partners, or they've been in a life and they are viewing maybe their sister, but then they see their husband. And those moments are undeniable because there will come a level of recognition, a level of emotion. It will be some level of, emotion and realism that is just not something that you can make up, if you're even making it up. Because that's another thing, am I making this all up? And, we help people to understand, just to trust this part. Because this part knows why you're struggling. It knows why. And it helps you to understand the symptoms of those struggles and relate it and root it back to wherever that may be for a person, so that they can absolutely understand it. And if there is a level of trauma there, and allow that level of trauma, if that is, sometimes it can be in that one session, or maybe the subconscious will say, we are working with her, or we are working with him. And that's beautiful. In my own QHHT session, because we have to have, and I've had hypnosis, I've done self-hypnosis and had many done one on me, and really was beautiful when I done a QHHT one, because the lady that came and travelled with me, very lovely lady, and she done a whole 2-hour session, hypnosis session for me, and there was a lot of stuff that I've talked about. If you haven't already, seen on a podcast where we're talking about hearing voices in your head and they're not yours, where that was sort of like at the tail end of what I was going through. And it was so interesting, and how just my higher self and them, or they. Delores talks about them and they as a collective. And, our higher self is connected to everyone else's higher self. I know sometimes we feel very sort of separated here and very insular and by ourselves. But outside of the physical and the physical 3D, it's not like that. And if you're used to meditating, or you've had a hypnosis session, this is a really beautiful thing, because there is so much that makes up the subconscious, and that is through loving beings. We might know them yourself as masters, teachers. There are angels, they're guides, and they absolutely love us. And there was so much love when I was going through my past life regression, because I was pretty much having a lot of stuff in my head at the time, and they were able to just help me heal and just understand my experiences, to help me understand why I had them, how I was going to help, and just sort of share this to help others. There's nothing wrong with them, and how we can heal from that. But there's a great love and warmth that comes through when we just call on the subconscious. And this is really beautiful, because then we start getting really personal information, and this will help you to answer everything. So I was able to sort of, put to bed a lot of the experience that I had in that really quite difficult 10-month experience. And they basically said that they are helping me, and just so much more that was coming from that, in terms of not only their help, but helping me come to deal with my 3D life and what I'm here to do, and to help others to access this part of themselves, and just to trust it, because we're all going through it. No one's any better at it than anyone else. We are literally going through this all together. But there is that such love and warmth and connection that is very undeniable when you are connected to that part. It loves us. It's supportive. And it's beautiful. So for me, I actually, on my QHHT, didn't go to a past life. I went to just me, and I went to that state of being. And just a lot of work was just done on my third eye, just to help me, just to heal. And all the earthbound entities that we would I talk about in some of the podcasts that you might want to, if you haven't already, listen to, where I was able to understand why they were even part of my journey. It's just not done in any other way. If there's all judgment, and if there's anything like that, it's normally human. It's all kind of man-made. It doesn't exist in the spirit realm of divine love with Source. So it was a very sort of sobering and a very loving experience, and just jam-packed with so much information. So it was just a beautiful way that we can sort of really gain more information about whatever experience, no matter what it is, so that we can understand. So that's really important, and with a QHHT, just to also do a body scan the body, and then just to sort of see health-wise, or another, whatever, chakras. So There's so much healing involved. And from there, and with every every QHHT session, there will always be audio recorded for you. So that will always be recorded, because part of the healing process is listening to your recording back. And for me, every time I listened to that, I gained more and more clarity, healing and perspective. So that was beautiful. So very, very powerful. And also part, just to sort of shift gears slightly as to the format and layout of this kind of hypnosis session, after your session, it will always conclude with a post chat and a highlight. This is really, really important, and this is not skipped. Because when you come out from something like that, you will feel quite liberated. You know, most of these sessions, if there's not a little cry or a little something of release, it's very powerful. And talking about what happened is really part of the process as well. So that talking, that's normally about 30 minutes of just sort of coming to, gaining that sort of coming back into beta, as we were talking about, the alpha and theta, really sort of being in those sort of, and holding in those frequency states. And incidentally, after a QHHT session, it's always good to make sure that you're grounded and to eat something once you've left your therapist, you know, so that can just ground you back into your 3D. So it's a really powerful way in which we can access that part. You know, it's the part of you and I that has got so much to offer. It is rooting for us, you know, and this is very interesting, because this is where I see a lot of people, when they know something isn't right, they don't feel 100% in life. They've done what they've needed to do, they've gone and explored, but then when they're ready to sort of look at the spiritual or maybe deeper level of an energetic side, that is when I just see a person, and to help them and to facilitate this space. So it's really beautiful, it's really powerful, and that might be something that might be just turning the cogs in your mind at the moment, that you've heard about this and you might be thinking about it. And if that's the case, then if you go on to find a local QHHT therapist that is working in your area, there is a lot that are doing interns until you become a qualified QHHT. We have quite a number of case studies. So that might be something that you'll be able to get your session for free. So you can go on to the website for that, the QHHT official website, and they list on there where you will be able to find someone that you can work with for that. So some questions then that naturally people do want to sort of know is, what's the difference then between another past life regression and the QHHT Delores' past life regression? Well, the main thing that's different there is that you will find out exactly why you saw yourself in another life. And we will gain as much information about what it is that you were doing in that life and how the scene is unfolding. We'll ask, once we've gathered all that information, we'll ask your subconscious, why did you show that to her today? What does that have to do with it? And your subconscious will let you know what it is. Why did it show? How did it relate? What can you learn from it? And then is there anything outstanding that we need to learn from? And is it ready now to close the door on that? To close that so it won't affect the person? Because that's really important. Delores was very hot and very clear on that. When we open something, we don't leave it open. We then close it. And we're grateful because we always will be focusing on the present life. But sometimes we get stuck. We're not enjoying ourselves. We've got a load of, things going wrong, health plummeting, mental health, difficult relationships. Things are not going right, difficulty with health, difficulty with money, things are not going right and we don't understand why. So the subconscious is a very good place. This is where it houses the higher self, where we can ask in this kind of setting, all this kind of information so that you, out of this experience, what the difference is that you will find out exactly why you were shown that and how that relates, and how you can move forward, closing that, and what lessons, patterns that you are now doing consciously in this life that will help you to release and then resolve what's going on for you. And another thing which is different to a QHHT, past life regression, to one that perhaps you might have previously, is that you can ask questions. You can find out, well, why is this happening in this part of my life? Why is this happening? Your subconscious will give you the answer, your higher self. So that is, if like, the main reason, and any spiritual clarification. And I will add to this, just to sort of say, it's not always a past life that a person goes to. I've seen many a person go to something that is not on this planet. They might be in a state where they're in lives between lives. I've had many a person that they're in the spirit realm and they're looking at the life that they're going into now. And that's really powerful. That's really incredible. They might be viewing it from this perspective of now, but they're also viewing it from the past. It's almost a level of dueling going on, which is really powerful. Hence, that's why it's called quantum healing hypnosis technique, because the quantum film, not sure how much you know on that, but it's huge. Time is not time as we know it. And if you've read any of Delores Cannon's books, she talks, which are a lot of her convoluted universe book, and she's got quite a few of them, where time is not 24-hour. It's not even linear. I've seen that time and time again through past life regression. I've seen that through healing. I've seen it through the Akashic records. I've seen people in the library. I've been in the library, and it's absolutely incredible. So time is not just that 24-hour clock, and it's enough to sort of blow your mind, but it's really incredible. Another little thing where we're just finding out a little bit more about this QHHT, why is the session going to be around anything between 4 or 6 hours, is because on the day you will have a consultation, you will prepare for hypnosis, so you understand the state that you're going into, and then you'll be able to go over the questions, actually have the session, and then go over any, when you awaken, you will, and we use the term awaken because, we are in that beautiful state, that frequency. So although you're not asleep, you awaken into the here and now, the beta. And that takes a little time where you can just talk that thing through. And just to revisit that what we were talking about, are you going to be asleep through the session? No, not at all. Your eyes will be closed, but you're now going to be, as you now understand, held in a frequency. And it's very similar to meditation. You're going to be fully relaxed, lying down, and there's a lot of speaking that goes on. You're not going to be lying there, and it's all happening for you. That's not how hypnosis works. It's not how the QHHT, past life regression, works. I'm asking a lot of questions, and you're able to answer those questions and respond with words. It's very much a talking session. But of course, what the session, the information is, it's coming from that part of you, the higher self, the bigger me. The information coming there is from a perspective that you will recognize. And it's beautiful. And it's really, really wonderful. Will you remember the session? Yes, you will. But will you remember the entire session? You might do. I know for me, there were parts that I'd actually forgot. And it's not until I listen back to my recording that you realise, wow, I didn't quite realise that was going on there. So it's really incredible. And that is part of the session, listening it back a couple of times in your own time for this information to really sink in. The other little thing as well, how will you know if it's coming from your higher self? The information, the pictures, the images, the feeling, the sensing, and all of that. How will you know? Well, it will come from a part of you that feels right. It will simply feel right. Conscious mind is a thing that questions. It interrupts and wants to sort of, get its bit in. It's quite interesting because my conscious mind was eager to really hear my subconscious. And my subconscious, it was really interesting listening to back, said, she's trying to hear us, but she can hear us. I just didn't want to let any of that slip out. So I was trying a little bit too hard when in actual fact I didn't need to. So that was just a personal one, but sometimes our conscious mind does come through. There is a way that we can, and the subconscious helps us through that part of you, the higher self. So this is another thing as well I just want to talk about, is that Delores Cannon talks about instant healing, and can that happen? And I certainly felt healing over a course of a period of time. Most clients that I've worked with over time have spoken to me and said that it's either happened during that, they have felt an absolute difference, and you'll normally get a sense of that after the session, or it takes a little bit of time, listening to your recording. But one thing that's really important here is that Delores talked about, factors such as our belief, our karmic choices that play a part in how healing is received. And also that anything, especially in our physical ailments, or our mental health, or anything that's affecting us, it's not the facilitator that's healing you. And I always make that very clear. Even after the most incredible session and someone has felt so different, it's changed them. And even in the other context where I'm working with people and with the Yusui pathway Reiki, where they feel incredible and they are connecting to source, I will not take that credit. You cannot. It's nothing to do with your facilitator. It is you that is doing the healing. It's holding space for the intention of that session. So I always just sort of like to be very clear, and I help before I take somebody through the process of QHHT, that I don't want to put that, I can't do anything, it's not me. It's always going to be that part of you, your soul. Your soul knows about your physical conditions, your mental health, the issues and everything that we're all having. It's not the facilitator. And I just think that's really important, just to hold people's expectations. You know, no one can do that to us. I wouldn't even want to put myself into a situation, because I can't do anything. And I wouldn't want to put anybody else. Nobody else can heal us. It really is ourselves that does the healing. And I love that, because, you know, you are the main thing here that's important. Your soul, your higher self, your guides, your angels, your counsel, your masters and teachers, you're part of all of that. You know, as the facilitator, just hold that space and put it all together. So whatever does or does not happen, that is something that your higher self will help you to work with, and to, you know, work through whatever healing that needs to take place. And I'm testament to that with the experience that I've had, and with my session. Mine came not through the facilitator or anybody. That part of me came through more of a systematic, bit by bit healing, which was beautiful, incredible. But it also sometimes can happen in that one instance. So whatever feels good is coming from that part of you and nobody else. And just finally, just to sort of put this all together, what can you do to get the best from any hypnosis, or especially with this level of quantum healing hypnosis technique, the QHHT? The best advice I can give anybody is to set your intention to connect with that part of you, and just to trust your intuition. You know, don't analyse it. I remember I was doing a case study on myself and I was doing a past life regression, not for the QHHT. This was when I was doing my other past life regression diploma. And one of the things I had to do, which I'll share with you, I was taking myself through, and I came into this beautiful bright light sun, and there was this man that was standing there, and I could see blue water. It was just beautiful. And there my conscious mind just went boom. What are you doing here? I've seen you before. And I had. Now previously, before I sort of did my hypnosis, I was looking at remote viewing. So I was doing a couple of exercises on remote viewing. And it just, without going too much into that, without, spending too much time on that, I saw this very man in the same image looking at me. And I didn't know too much about it. And then now I'm in my past life regression, I'm taking myself through, and he's still standing there. And this time I know he's me. But of course, what my conscious mind did is completely grounded it to a halt. So I had to do a whole case study on that and how that ruined it, and then do another case study. And incidentally, he showed up again, which was really powerful. So that was really incredible. So, don't analyse. Just say what you see, what you feel, what you know, and your higher self will just flow. Listen to what's being asked and describe what is happening. And if you do that, you'll get a really good, session, because that part of you, your truth will come out. So these sessions are really powerful. They are a way in which we can access that part of us. Access our truth. Understand what it is that we're going through. So I hope you've enjoyed that little bit of information that we've talked about today. Hypnosis and QHHT, past life regression. Understanding the frequencies which you go into every day. But what we do is, as facilitators, we use that in order for you to access that part of the mind, the part where the higher self sits. Delores knew that. She, at that point when she was talking about it, she didn't know what to call it. She called it subconscious, but she knew it was more. It was the bigger me. It was the soul. It was all-knowing. It had the same information. It had a dynamic clarity and, transcending space and time with the information and what it could show us. So this was really helpful, and it's really helped me in my life, and it's helped so many of others. And I hope you find this information useful. And please tune in to other podcasts and whatever platform that you're on. Please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, I'm on YouTube. I'm on Spotify. Please subscribe and listen into more information. And if you want to find out a little bit more about the QHHT, or you want to find out a little bit more of the information that we've talked about, please take a look and head over to the website. Until next time, do take care, and bye for now.